Graaak, Graak, is the title of this piece by Ezekiel Kralin, this week's installment of his story about the two little dogs and his friend Deke who lives outside. And I think we're still on the subject of the legal proceedings. It's all wrapping up, and I'm beginning to get a little sleepy at this juncture and noticing that my tea is empty. I should have put some hot water on while I was playing all that music and those recordings. Excuse me just a moment. That's it. That's the last of the tea. Well, go put some water on next time I play some music. I'll remember. I don't have to write it down. Ezekiel Kralin wrote, Email correspondence, April 26th and 27th. Subject, not the brightest bulb in the pack. Date, April 26th, morning. One more thing about our conversation. Once I affirmed with plaintiff's attorney that my only income is Social Security, he asked me, well, can't you pay him a little something every month? I detected a twinge of frustration. Of course not, I exclaimed at the absurdity of his query with a suppressed guffaw. That's out of the question, for as you know, Watson, it's illegal to garnish someone's Social Security no matter what the sum. He should know that. Well, I'm sure he does, but he went strictly by the script, I suppose, the Bodhisattva script, having fun at my expense, methinks. Attached is a long link that I'm not going to repeat, rendering of Terry Pterodactyl conjured up by Crayon AI image generator, the best one in the lot. The used pterodactyl lot, that is. This one has less than 40,000 miles on it, because previously owned by a little old granny Bruja who doesn't go out very much. She has a fear of heights. Subject, Terry just told me. Date, April 26th, afternoon. By the way, Zeke, those aren't origami cranes you so graciously showered upon Watson. They're origami pterodactyls. Duh. I should have known, Watson. I hope they didn't get too badly entangled in your rain-barrel, water-drenched hair, Rapunzel. FYI, Lucasio stands for light or Lucifer or lucky, but root word is light, Terry added with a twinkle in his jet-black peepers. Graaak. An attorney named Lucifer, I mused. Isn't there a recent TV series about that? Not quite, but close enough, he affirmed. The storyline is the devil abandons hell for Los Angeles. Poor choice in my estimation. Should have been Barstow. Opens his own nightclub and winds up a consultant to the LAPD, but that's just a fantasy play, Zeekster. Whereas your plaintiff's attorney is the real McCoy. Graaak. Surely you don't mean the devil, I replied, since there are many devils, right? Well, I conjecture that monotheistic Satanists allow for only one, Terry explained, but since the one and only Lucifer, praise be unto he who adores us all, can manifest his presence in multiple bodies at the same moment with no limit to their number, I'd say the argument is ludicrous. Wouldn't you? Graaak. I scratched my head, perplexed as usual by Terry's latest mind game. That makes sense, I guess, but what does the attorney, being the devil himself, or just one of many devils, depending on which side of the looking glass you're on, imply for my own destiny regarding this lawsuit and, by extension, my beloved Brindlekin and their master? Everything glorious, replied my leather-winged amigo. Graaak. Do you have a pin? I told him, let me look, and rummaged through one of my small plastic bins where I keep sundry items such as rubber bands, paper clips, staples, Velcro tabs, and such. Yes, here's one, I exclaimed, and handed it to Terry. What are you going to do with it? That's for me to know and you to find out. Graaak, he taunted, then activated his electron microscopic lens embedded into his left eye and stared intently at the pin's head, tilting it this way and that with precise tiny movements. What are you doing now? I queried. Counting. Hush, he whispered, while keeping his left eye diligently focused on the pin's head. 11, 12, 13. Oh, I see, I blurted in sudden comprehension. The classic question, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, applies to their opposite as well. Now you're cooking, Terry softly answered while remaining in deep concentration. 22, 23, 24. I gave up and vanished from our little time-warp cone of privacy once he ascended into the realm of the decapentagonal and beyond, because I had better things to do than endure Terry's trickster ways. He certainly takes his humor far beyond the pale, and in this case I could easily discover him 100 billion gazillion years from now, where he'd still be present in this temporal bubble, counting devils on the head of a pin. I suppose at this point I should call it the head of a pun. Subject: they don't have the video in question. Date: April 27th, afternoon. Either that or Kevin or a plaintiff's attorney may be withholding it. At least that is my conclusion, based on the claim that one of the dogs ripped off his shoe. For the video would clearly show the plaintiff was not wearing shoes, but cheap plastic slide slippers or thong type. My memory is not clear on that trivial detail. Hence, using the video to prove an attack occurred would totally nullify the claim that plaintiff's shoe was ripped off, because no shoe in the first place, and that the phrase ripped off, along with the word shoe, was obviously a manipulative exaggeration with intent to persuade the court in plaintiff's favor. I believe the legal term for that is perjury. Though what do I know, Watson? I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer, frightened and confused by your world, including this diabolical innovation called shoes that make me stumble on the courthouse steps and my toes to ache by day's end. Bam. Subject: Deke update plus other splendiferous events and thoughts to report. Date: April 27th, nighttime. Deke finally showed up Monday evening after vanishing since last Thursday. Perfect timing, since my lawsuit fiasco and my struggles around it had come to an end earlier that same day. Coincidence? I don't think so, since I only told him I have a meeting downtown on Friday, so we'll be away from home until 2 p.m. Those 3 days, plus Monday morning, were vital to focusing all my attention on the lawsuit, so I greatly appreciate his prolonged disappearance. And as I said in a previous missive, he's begun lavishing more affection on the pups than ever before. For on that day I witnessed such kindness post-doggy breakfast. Once the furries had licked their bowls clean, Flaco looked up at her master with tail wagging. "Happy now?" he addressed her while seated close by. "Tummy all full? Start the day right?" He then pulled her into his arms for a prolonged embrace, then turned to her brother, who was just standing there watching the new day unfold. "Lucky," he called, and the demi-dachshund turned to look at him. "You got some food on your chin. You look like a slob. Come here." So Lucky approached, and with that his master brushed a bit of kibble off his chin with an index finger. And yesterday morning Deke showed up to collect $40, in advance, of course, the last of this month's payment. Offered to let me walk the mutts on my way to the Chase branch, which was heavenly and thoughtful. They were high-spirited and playful the entire way there and back, so happy to be with me again. I paused midway to the bank to feed them treats, which I always keep stashed in my small backpack, along with a roll of poopy bags and a pair of martingale collars, which I placed around their necks shortly after Deke handed me their leashes. During our stroll to the ATM outlet, I wondered if Deke expected me to rush the dogs in both directions, so I wouldn't take too long to suit his anxious nature, exacerbated by Crystal. But as far as I'm concerned, walking the dogs includes allowing them to pause and sniff about to their satisfaction, as well as honoring Lucky's penchant for scratching his back and sides along a rough wall, first one way, then another, with such joyful exuberance it brightens my heart, as it does for anyone walking by, or flopping on his back and squirming on the sidewalk for the same delightful reason. Well, I figured to myself, that's just too bad. The doggie's happiness is above and beyond all other matters in this world, including Deke's childish mood swings. If he says to me, "Where the fuck have you been?" I'll turn a deaf ear, and that'll be that. Well, Watson, you'll be pleased to know that did not occur. He was just glad to receive his allowance, and that I spent some quality time with the pooches. What a change from his previous behavior. I'm proud of the handsome devil. After surrendering the leashes back to their master's hand, I returned hovel to prepare the elves' breakfast per his request. By the time I stepped back outside, Millie had joined him, a gaunt but short 50-something homeless black woman with a raucously amiable nature and sandpaper pipes, possibly acquired from smoking more than just tobacco over the decades. That morning she sported a flat, dark turquoise mask with metallic silver eyebrows, slits for eyes, nose, and mouth. It covered her entire face from chin to forehead, and was held firm by an elastic band. Well, let me tell you, good physician, they were really hammering away at each other with the most rude accusations and insults, calling each other expletives like motherfucker, bitch, nigga, N-I-G-G-A-H, and threatening to beat the shit out of each other, though with grinning faces and sporadic chuckles, showing me it was all in good sport. So rather than interrupt their surly badinage, I simply nodded my head in greeting, set down the bowls, pet the dogs briefly, then returned upstairs. In fact, from the humble confines of my hovel, I could easily hear them squawking away like angry macaws, fighting over a choice mango that just fell to the ground. Some 10 minutes later, their foe berating morphed into guffaws, chortles, and silly snorts. Of course, I was curious, so rose from my workstation to peer out the window, upon which I espied Millie with legs pressing against his back where he was seated in such a way as to massage his shoulder blades with her knees while rocking from side to side. She still had her mask on, by the way. I was pleased to see Flacco and Lucky in full snooze mode, stretched out and soaking up the deliciously warm sunlight upon a large sheet of cardboard, oblivious to the foibles of humanity, including those of Millie and Deke. Some 40 minutes or so later, Millie departed, and Deke shortly after that. He left behind a loose pile of wrinkled clothing beside the parking meter and some other debris like an empty juice box, half a fashion magazine, a pair of hospital slippers still sealed in cellophane wrapping, and a defunct torch lighter. So I decided to clean it all up, and to my surprise, discovered a very nice long-sleeve shirt that would fit me well. It was made of thick material, and though black and red plaid, was not flannel. So planning to bring it upstairs and toss it into the hamper, I set it atop the nearby trash bin while cleaning up the rest. But while bent over performing this chore, I heard a man's voice call to me, "Hey, that's a nice shirt." I then stood up to lay my orbs upon a strappingly gorgeous fellow, around 5'9", with silver eyes, thick shocks of auburn hair fading into gray that fell to the shoulders, a full beard with complimentary mustache, and the sweetest smile you'll ever see, with a full set of pearly whites to boot, in fact of his obviously being homeless, obvious because his blue jeans and sweater, while clean and attractive, were a loose fit in a way that someone with a roof over their head would never be caught dead in. To be continued.